watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Right, on you go, Adam.
It's on now, right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Caribbean Weather Desk. I am your host, Adam McDoom. Along with the beautiful Force 13 team of mine, I have Nathan, I have David,
Hello.
I have Greg, and I have Lee.
Hello there.
Yes, welcome.
And Devon.
Yes.
I'm Devon too, yeah.
Devon.
Yeah, I'm kind of half partially AFK though.
Okay. Right, so today we'll be introducing to you Caribbean Weather Desk. I am currently at HQ, which is for Caribbean HQ, which is currently located on Grand Cayman Islands, which is in the Northwest Caribbean. This Caribbean Sea is located in the North Atlantic Ocean, for all of you that don't know where the Caribbean is. The Cayman Islands is considered the hurricane capital of the Atlantic Basin, where we get hit by hurricanes almost every year. We have been very lucky the last couple of years, but by the looks of it, I highly doubt we're going to be that lucky this year. This discussion today, we'll be also talking about El Nino and La Nina, the ENSO cycle, and how that affects the Caribbean region, and also how the current status is of this ENSO cycle and where we're heading to this summer and winter 2016. I was also on earlier show with my good friend Lee, who does the climate show, and was also discussing the El Nino and La Nina. And he joins me tonight to continue discussing this and how it will be affecting the Caribbean this year.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yep. So before we start, is there anyone that wants any quick questions before we kick it off? Anyone?
Anyone?
No.
Nope. Nope.
So,
Okay. So let's start this. Right. So let me just pop this on here. Right. Okay. Before we head there, just want to show it off. So this is the Caribbean Sea, and here is headquarters. Right here. We're just a couple hundred miles, I'd say about 100 plus, nearly 200 miles west-northwest of Jamaica, about 180 miles south of Cuba, a few miles, 220 or so miles south of Florida. We get hurricanes. Our hurricane season is June 1st to November 30th. And we have our severe weather season, which starts in late March and goes till May. We also have a secondary wet season, which is from September to November. Our winter season, which, by the way, we do have, goes from December through till March, till mid to late March. We get those cold fronts coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, which is right here for all of you who do not know. And those cold fronts come down with northerly winds and bring us northerly winds, also cooler temperatures, rougher seas down into the area. Also, a few scattered showers. As we get in closer into severe weather season, we do tend to change from just rain and cooler weather to storms. Eventually, As the year progresses, we start to see these tropical waves coming off the west coast of Africa, moving westward through the Caribbean Sea, making it into the area, merging with these systems, and could also produce tropical systems. The Cayman Islands has experienced many upon many tropical systems since records began. More than I would say more than 100 storms have passed the area, affecting the area, with a little less making direct hit and causing major damage. The worst of the worst hitting headquarters is Hurricane Ivan in 2004, which pretty much 95% of the island was damaged, if not destroyed completely. Hurricane Ivan came and impacted us around the 11th to the 13th of September of 2004, with winds about 160, gusting up to as much as 210, with rough seas and storm surge that has covered the island to the point of satellites not picking up the island. So we have a very valuable and very long experience with hurricanes, and the knowledge that comes out of these the knowledge of meteorology that comes out of these islands are well valued. Right, so I guess, is there any other questions that anyone wants to bring up before we head on to the next part here?
It's all okay at the moment, Adam.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Right. All right, so let us talk about El Niños. Right. El Niños are anomalous sea surface temperatures along the equatorial Pacific. These temperatures affect how the atmospheric conditions are, and it affects climate and weather conditions all over the world, as you've probably heard Lee talking about on his show just not too long ago. When you have a El Nino, it causes warm, anomalous sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific, which tends to put a hamper on hurricane conditions in the Atlantic Ocean, thus cutting down on the amount of storms we get. In the winter months, it tends to be relatively wet and relatively cold. Our coldest was back in 2010 winter season, when the Cayman Islands has gotten as cold as 38 degrees Fahrenheit, which is almost there through freezing. Freezing is at 32. Yes, and during the spring time, it tends to be pretty stormy as well. The Cayman Islands do get severe storms and do get tornadoes and waterspouts from time to time. Now with La Nina, the equatorial Pacific cools, and with the equatorial Pacific cooling, it tends to cause warmer Atlantic sea surface temperatures, lower upper level winds, and that tends to be an aid for tropical development in the Atlantic. and causes more storms and also more devastating impacts. The relations between El Nino and La Nina storm tracks, they tend to be more longer range tracking storms that make it into the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, eventually the United States or Mexico. With El Ninos, they tend to be a lot of fish storms, meaning that they do not affect land. The only thing that they do affect is the little fishies in the water. So currently, as we are now in March of 2016, we have just exited one of the most powerful El Ninos on record. I think it is currently sharing its record with the 1997 El Nino. And if we look back in past with strong El Ninos, there usually is the year after a strong El Nino tends to either be a neutral or La Nina year, most times rapidly changing to a La Nina. And this year definitely seems to follow the same pattern with the El Nino quickly dissipating and the La Nina quickly coming up. If we look here at the CPC or Climate Prediction Center's page on El Nino, and we look at the sea surface temperatures, the anomalies, and the anomalies in depth, you could see that. Okay, well, this is the first one here. Hopefully you guys are seeing this.
Yeah, we got it.
Can someone? Okay. So these are the current sea surface temperatures, and as you could see, as time goes on, there's this growing cold tongue that's starting to pick up. You could see it a little bit better on the anomalies rather than temperatures, but you could see this warm pool that's out there, and it's eventually going away. As you could clearly see on this here, these are the anomalies. Notice that the strong El Nino that's there is quickly weakening. Only now with really two major spots of warm water left. One just west of 150 west, and another one that's about 120 west. About 100 to one, I'd say, yeah, from 100 to about 120 west. You can see that cold tongue developing off the western side of South America, and that cold pool I expect to expand. I also expect a cold pool to start picking up just east of 150 west. You could notice that it's already starting to drop down into cooler area between these two warm spots here. You could see this a little bit more clearer on the anomalies per depth. We have here this warm pool that's along the surface, and as you could see very easily, that this warm pool continues to dissipate and weaken, while this cold pool that's right along here continues to push eastwards and also lift up towards the surface. Now, with this being the case, likely we'd be looking at neutral conditions as we get into spring, possibly even seeing weak La Nina conditions by as early as mid to early summer.
Yes, absolutely. I support you on that, Adam.
And I'm looking at it, could very well get to moderate to even strong El Nino conditions by the time we get into the peak part of the hurricane season. Now, with that being the case, we could very well be breaking this, what is it now, 9-year Cat 5 drought that we've been having.
9
I
years
still
if we
can't
get
believe it.
9 years if we get to the end of peak season without a Cat 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a period.
I can't even believe that it's been 9 years that we haven't had a Cat 5. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, well, I do believe that drought will come to an end this hurricane season.
We almost did get lucky last year with Hurricane Joaquin
Yes, very close.
that had some serious impacts in the Bahamas, also sinking one cargo ship across the area. If one of you guys could just give a quick details on what Joaquin did, how strong it did get, and so on. Anyone cares to give details?
It was a storm that defied a lot of people's predictions, not only in its track but in its intensity, including National Hurricane Center, who thought it would only be was it the Hurricane Center or was it Devon who thought it would only be a 50-mile-an-hour storm? But the Hurricane Center were also wrong, I'm sure, at one point, and ended up being a 130-mile-an-hour storm initially when it moved through the Bahamas, and then an unexpected second peak at 155 miles an hour when it was leaving. Lowest pressure was 931. That was, I think that was at both of its peaks, actually. It set that pressure, at least one of them, certainly the first one anyway. And just shy of becoming a Category 5, which I think was the right observations for it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as it comes to this year, we'd be looking for possibly seeing our first Cat 5 in 9 years, and also an active period. If we do look back, let me bring up 1997's El Nino season. Let me bring that up here. Alright, and let me pop on back the screen sharing. Alrighty, so this was the 1997 El Nino year, which, as if we look here on the overall season's storm tracks, it was it had
untouched.
It was, yes, the Caribbean was literally untouched. It was a very, very dull year. However, it was able to produce 3 hurricanes. But most of the storms that year were indeed fish storms. It was a very quiet year for the Caribbean, for the Gulf of Mexico, for the exception of one. And actually, Bermuda actually had a fairly decent year, with the exception of one storm passing to its northwest. But if we look further ahead now and go to the 1998 season here, you can see that it started to become a really active season with a La Nina starting to develop that year. With the strongest storm that year, Hurricane Mitch, which did have impacts to the Cayman Islands, which is if this thing could load a little quicker, is right here, and this is Hurricane Mitch, and its closest approach to the Cayman Islands. He was a Category 5 hurricane moving towards the west. And then had dipped southwards into Honduras. Mitch was one of the deadlier hurricanes for Honduras that year, and
of all
it
time.
also, yeah, of all time, really. And also, we had another hurricane that came by, although passing north of Cuba. The outer rain bands did affect. We could see where storm tracks have started to change from 97 to 98, where it became less of fish storms and more of Atlantic landfalls and Caribbean landfalls. If we look at other years as well, if we look at the years, let's see, 2006, for example, another El Nino year. If we look at that year, it was also El Nino year with a rapidly forming moderate El Nino. And that year was able to produce a few hurricanes, but most of the storms were out in the Atlantic, with only a few storms affecting. There was two storms that really had any effect on Cayman Islands. The first storm being right here, before it actually became tagged as a depression. It had caused some slight flooding in the area and so on. And also, another thing to also mention is that 2006 was the year for the UK and their storms.
It
They
was.
won here,
Yeah, what's that? Yeah.
and also Atlantic Canada as well. Right, and then as we go on ahead to the 2007 season, which was a very unique season as the La Nina was forming that year. We had two major hurricanes. As a matter of fact, 2007 was the last year for the Atlantic to have Cat 5, being Hurricane Felix, which is this little storm track down here. That was the last Cat 5 to form in the Atlantic. That would be Hurricane Felix. Earlier in the year, we had Hurricane Dean, which passed through the Caribbean as well, coming even closer to Grand Cayman here. Caused a bit of damage, not so much. The major damage from Dean would be in Belize and the Yucatan right here. But then again, this is a perfect example showing you that with El Nino years, you tend to have a lot of fish storms that go out and impact areas up here. When you have La Nina developing, you tend to have a lot of these Caribbean tracks, these Gulf of Mexico tracks, these East Coast tracks, and you know the way it looks this year, it's really showing up on that. It's really showing up. It's already starting to indicate that we could be seeing storm seasons much like it. Also, 2008 being another La Nina year had significant impacts on the Caribbean, more so than 2007, as you could see along here. Most of the Greater Antilles
Cuba.
had one hell of a time. Cuba, Jamaica, even we in the Cayman Islands had a couple of storms. We've had the first storm, Arthur, even though it was all the way over here. If we remember Arthur, let me see if I could pull up one of its satellites. Where are we? Yes, here we go. With Arthur, although being a storm where it centers here, Arthur was a relatively large monsoonal system. And what that means is that there's a string of low pressures that extended across the Western Caribbean and into the Eastern Pacific. And what actually kicked off Arthur was I think it was Tropical Storm Alma in the East Pacific that crossed over and reformed over here along with the monsoon trough into Tropical Storm Arthur. And as you can see, can't really see it so well, but Grand Cayman is actually located right here, and we did get the outer bands of the storm, causing some minor flooding. But yeah, so we had Arthur, we had We had Dolly, which would be this storm right here. And we had Gustav, we had Faye, we had Ike, and we had Paloma. So that year was also a pretty busy one. Also another busy one was 2010. 2010's hurricane season. I genuinely believe 2010 and 2011 was the last active season we've had. I don't know if anyone wants to agree or disagree with me on
Yes,
that.
I do agree with you there.
Yeah.
2011 and 2012 were pretty much
Well,
just as
they were.
active, but 2010 certainly had the
The
strongest storms,
2010
didn't they?
was stronger, yes. Yeah.
Yes, and if we also take a look at other things that kind of gives us a kind of key into what we could be looking at in terms of this hurricane season, I do want to get this up to show you guys. Where there's a key thing that we look at in terms of figuring out, relatively how much storms we could be looking at and how strong they could be possibly getting. And that would be something called there you got two names for it. You got the tropical cyclone heat potentials, and you also named oceanic heat content. So, and I was looking at it and discussing with the guys earlier in the week and even the week before. As of now, the Caribbean's heat potentials are already unusually high for this time of year. Not only that, but it's actually higher than previous years. Matter of fact, I would even say as close as matching up to 2005 and 2007 and 2010 season. Let me see if I could pop that up there. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything while I get this up there.
Just that I've been doing some random number crunching for no reason whatsoever. I've just calculated that based upon the last 250 storms in the Atlantic, the average wind speed from all of those 250 storms was 78 miles per hour. And averaged back all the way to the first 250 storms that had ever formed in the Atlantic, which had been done by around 1886, the lowest value was 59 miles an hour for the 250 storms leading up to 1981-82, and the highest value was 84 miles an hour leading up to 1969. So interesting numbers that probably don't mean much, but certainly interesting to look at nonetheless.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you, Nathan. That's interesting.
One of many obscure stats that I can now dig up with
Definitely.
the new storm database that I've been constructing.
Yes, and what a fantastic job Nathan's doing on that. Yes,
Incidentally,
I've
I've
been
got
very
the-
impressed with you, Nathan.
I've got similar numbers for pressures as well. It's probably not as accurate because pressures are a whole different thing altogether. So the first 250 storms with pressures was in 1886, I think. The current number is, so the last 250 storms in the Atlantic had an average pressure of around 983 millibars. The lowest value in that sheet was around 970 millibars, right at the very start, so could be some doubt over that. But the highest value suggests the weakest storms. The 250 storms leading up to a data point here in the year 1994.
Very interesting. Yep.
Right,
Apart from
I'm
that-
currently.
Apart from that, I have nothing else.
Right, I'm just about there, getting this chart up. Give me 2 ticks. All right. Okay, here we go. Right, so this here is the oceanic heat content
Ah.
in the Caribbean Sea, and just to point out where this area is, this area extends all the way from the Atlantic up through the Caribbean, up through here, all this area right here, right, and then you got these highlighted areas here just south of Hispaniola, Jamaica, the Cayman Basin, and parts of the Gulf of Honduras here. Which, to be honest, these areas here, it's unusually odd to see this high. At this time of year. Matter of fact, you'd be seeing these darker blues all along here at this time of year. You wouldn't even get close to starting to see these light blues until about early to mid-April, and we're already starting to see yellows starting to pop up. These are areas of about 80 to 90 kilojoules per square centimeter, or centimiles, I think it is. But yes, it's quite unusual to see it that high, and that's another key thing to make me believe that this hurricane season with the El Nino, with the La Nina, sorry, will cause a very active hurricane season, with even the possibility of seeing. I would even say 1 or 2 Cat 5s rolling through the area.
Yeah, I support you there, Adam. I think the drought's coming to an end. That side of things. Yeah.
Now, the most recent updates from the CPC on this current dissipating El Nino and developing La Nina, as you could see in summary, the very first thing, and also having an asterisk on it, strong El Nino is present and weakening, which is very much so. And that there are positive anomalies across the equatorial Pacific, most of the Pacific, but it is weakening. And
yes, that's evident.
The general forecast that's been going on for the past, I would say, 3 or so weeks is that a transition to neutral likely during late Northern Hemisphere spring or early summer, and then close to 50% chance of La Nina conditions by fall. I do think that will change during the next couple of weeks.
I think so.
I strongly think that we will see end zone neutral conditions by, I would say, as early spring to mid spring, with La Nina conditions developing by early summer, and possibly getting into strong conditions by La Nina conditions by the peak of the hurricane season.
Yes, I support you on that. I also think this 50% will be higher than what they're given as well. So yes, yeah.
And you can see here, these here are the surface equatorial anomalies. And if we look here, down here, what this shows is the temperatures over the months and along the equatorial region. And if you could see along here, you could see where the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific starts cooling off, and also you can notice that the western part of the Pacific is also cooling off. You could see that Nino region 3.4, which is the most important region. You could forget about the other regions. The most important one is 3.4. That 3.4 region will determine how strong the El Nino is, or La Nina is. It will determine how the upcoming hurricane season will bring. And that area here is between, I'd say about 120 west to about 180. You could see how earlier in November and December where that thing was screaming hot. Now you can see that's tapering off and tapering off pretty quickly, especially as we get into the second part of February and heading into March. Right, so these are the regions. As I said, region 1.2, 3, and 4 aren't too important. The most important is the 3.4. Although I do have to say, keep an eye on all the regions because it will give you a basic idea on how things are turning out.
We're all down to 1+.
There, I think there are some discrepancies between different charts, between the CDAS charts, which are these ones here. Okay, let me pop in 1.2 here. You can see there are some little discrepancies, but overall, we can say that overall it's falling. There's a little bit of rise on this one. They use slightly different variables to make up the temperature departures, so it's kind of questionable. But overall, the overall pattern, especially if we look at the most important one, which is Nino 3.4, you could see it. The peak was in November.
Yes, absolutely.
It's dropping, and you're starting to see it drop even quicker now as we go from February into March.
Yes, it is. It's definitely weakening quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
All regions I'll add there as well. Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, so these are the anomalies over the past 4 weeks. You could see this strong warm pool up on the surface, and how as you go further down into the next 3 weeks later, where it just cools right off. Okay. And then this is a chart that I shared on Lee's show, the climate show, where this is the overall change in the weekly departures over the last few weeks, and you can see where it's really dropping off over the equatorial Pacific, and also you can see where the Atlantic is starting to pick up all of this area here.
3% roll on Sandy.
Sorry, what was that from Devon? I missed that there, Adam, unfortunately. I don't know what Devon said.
Right. So the ONI, or Oceanic Nino Index, is basically, it tells you how much the El Nino has peaked, right? Basically what it is taking the monthly temperatures over a 3-month period, putting them together, and then that gives you your ONI index. And you can see on this chart here, this is where we peaked. We peaked at the end of 2015, and you can't really see too clearly on this, but it's starting to drop off here. This one here is the upper ocean heat anomalies. You can see already where it's dropping off here. And the thermocline slope, which if it's the more negative on the thermocline slope, the more El Nino you get, the more La Nina you get. And you can, I don't know if you guys could see clearly enough. But,
yeah, Adam, I've just posted perhaps a better version of that graph in the Skype room right now on a link.
I could screen share that.
From another, I'm not sure what website it was, but yeah, it's on there, I think. I hope so anyway.
Yeah, ggweather.com. Yeah, that's a good site as well. Yes, so there we go. The oceanic, the Nino index, and we were
That's a
at
better chart, Nathan.
yeah, we were at very strong, and now we are officially heading back down. Soon be into the strong. Let me get back to this one here. So I go down further. Right, that's the oceanic heat anomaly charts that I've shown on Lee's show. This is also another one here that I also want to point out as the subsurface anomalies. And you could see how this warm pool is quickly going away. This top one on the right here was from the 18th of January. And as we go down, 2nd of February, 17th, and now 4th of March, those warm anomalies that were further down no longer exist, and those higher temperatures that were there are just about pretty much gone now. And you notice that this cold pool is pushing east, pushing north. At this point here, 18th of January, I think overall it was about 200 to 150 and out to 160 west. And as we got on further down to, I'm going to get back to that, to the 4th of March, we were looking at it 150 to 100 at about, what's that, 120 west, thereabout, and then now we're starting to see it go up, closing up to 110 west, and it's up at 100 and starting to grow up to the 50 and almost at the surface. You also notice that there's another cold pool starting to develop very deep down in Nino 1+2 region as well. Right along here. Yeah, I'm not sure if you could get it too well on here. It's a very faint blue, but that's another cold pool that's starting to pick
Oh
up.
yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Right. And as I did mention on Lee's show that we have the 850 wind anomalies. Basically we're talking about the trade winds across the equatorial Pacific. And if you looked on earlier on in last year, at the end of last year, you were seeing very strong westerly trade winds along here. Those are no longer starting to show. There's only a little bit of wind up across the here around to 150 west to about 160 east here, but I suspect that would soon go away, and it'll be just pure easterlies coming out here. Now the pure easterlies will enhance the La Nina conditions to develop and help to diminish those El Nino conditions.
Yes.
So this is another chart showing the Kelvin waves that go around the Earth every so often, and with the Kelvin waves of last year is what really helped kick off that El Nino and really turn it into a big powerhouse.
Well,
But
look,
as you can
just
see-
just one moment there. I mean, it can't be a coincidence that one of the biggest waves there, the dark areas, coincided with the triple hurricanes in the Central Pacific.
Mhm.
Yes, Nathan. Yes, absolutely. It's a good point.
Yeah, and as you can see now, we're starting to get out of the downwelling phase. The downwelling phases of these Kelvin waves are becoming weaker and weaker, and the upwelling phase or the cooling phase of the Kelvin wave is really starting to take control. As you can see, as the months go on, you could really see it starting to take off. and these waves can move from a west-east direction. So. Okay, just want to pop down to about, ooh, where are we? Right, so this, going back to the oceanic Nino index, right? Currently it's at 2.2. I suspect next month, when the new one comes out, which I believe that would be January, February, March, um, uh, would be likely, I would say, either 2.0 or even less. I wouldn't be surprised at.
I find it interesting that graph goes up to 4, as if that might happen one day.
Yes, yes. Well, you never know. Maybe after we get out of this mini ice age, we might see another big, massive El Nino.
I'll talk about that in one of my shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You
So
know, it's very possible that we could end up seeing a 4 El Nino in the future, especially considering that February was by far the warmest month ever recorded, and by a long shot too, 1.35 degrees centigrade above the 50-year mean.
yeah, likely we'll be seeing this for a little while, and then it's going to start cooling off. We'll get into that. We'll get into that mini ice age, and then after that mini ice age leaves out, we're likely going to be seeing another phase of warming. And it's this funny thing that goes on with the world about oh, it's global warming, it's global cooling. Well, my take on it is that, well, yeah, I mean, you'll have moments of global warming and you'll have moments of global cooling. That's how the world works.
Reoccurring cycles, yeah.
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 We're causing destruction to the earth. Oh, global warming this. Oh, global cooling that. Well, let me tell you this. It's Mother Nature that chooses to decide what she wants to do. No one's going to tell her what to do.
Yep, it's just what the Earth does, and the Earth will do it, even if humans are here or not. It will continue to just cycle after cycle. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Now, this chart I actually do like here. It's the ONI index chart, and it's basically they got a whole long list that goes back from the 1950s.
Yeah, it's that graph basically, but in text, isn't it?
Yes, and with the highlighted areas also it gives you a better, clear idea on what we're looking at with the up and down charts we were looking at earlier. Of course, we could go back to 1950s, but I won't do that. If we go as far back as the 2004 El Nino, which was a very unique El Nino, it wasn't those normal kind of El Ninos we got. It was one of those what's it called again, Maruku El Ninos, which is really a Central Pacific warming El Nino, which seems to cause more activity in the Atlantic than what you would normally see in an El Nino year, but not so much a high number of storms developing, but rather a high number of powerful storms that cause impact to land. It's kind of weird that, but anyway. As we went on to 2005, which is another year that I'm keeping a close eye on, because 2005 and 2016 there are a lot of similarities. Not just that we have the exiting El Nino, but there are some other factors that are very similar to 2005. If we look at 2005, we were exiting out of the El Nino and heading into neutral. We headed into a neutral kind of La Nina-ish.
Just a little question on that, Adam. I noticed that coming into 2005 there, it was a very, considerably more gradual transition than what we're expecting this year and what we saw looking at the chart there in 2010. Do you think that might have any effect?
Might,
There you go, lads.
but the transition this year compared to 2005 will be.
I think this one's faster.
Yeah, if you compared the numbers and comparing to what the forecast indicate, I would say by a long shot, yes, this year will be a lot more rapidly coming.
Yeah, the main
linear.
question really was the gradual transition, was that part of why 2005 was so active or not?
I don't think that the gradual transition is what pushed 2005 to be one of the most active Atlantic seasons. But there was many things that went into 2005, not just the fact you had a dissipating El Nino. There was many other factors that went into that. And those factors are quite similar factors to what we are seeing currently now. But
Yes.
I do have to mention that a El Nino or La Nina neutral areas are anywhere between 0 and 0.5 plus or minus. El Nino starts at plus 0.5 and upwards, La Nina minus 0.5 and downwards. So if you look at 2005, we were in a La Nina going into November, December, January period, and into early 2006. However, we did end up transitioning back into this El Nino kind of pattern, which is kind of similar to what the CFS is indicating for this year. However, I highly doubt it. It will, if anything, I would say it's closer to the 2009-2007 in terms of the transition from El Nino to La Nina.
Yes, I support you on that. I admit.
Yeah. So we peaked in the November, December, January period at 2.3, and now, December, January, February period is at 2.2. My gut's telling me that either somewhere there about at 2.0, even 1.9, maybe even 1.8, just depending on how much this transition happens during this month of March. So we'll have to wait until the first or second week in April to determine what those numbers are. But I definitely see quite a steep decline, especially when we get to this time here, March, April, May, and April, May, June timeframe. I think that's when we're going to start to see a rapid decline and changeover.
Oh yes, yeah.
Into that thing. So this is one of the charts. Now I'd take this chart with, I wouldn't really say a grain of salt, but I would say maybe a cup of coffee. Yes, we are going to see the decline of the El Nino. Yes, we are going to see an increase in the La Nina, but I would say it currently has it as 50 plus percent La Nina by the time we get into the peak part of the hurricane season and going into the end of the year. I say it's much higher.
It's much higher.
I would say as much as 70, 80, 90% by the time we get into this time period, which is what is that? July, August, September. I wouldn't be surprised if
maybe it'll annoy you and get to just minus 0.4.
Oh, that would really get me off on a bad start. But this is another one here, and this is another thing that makes me think that the CFS is getting it wrong. I definitely think the CFS is getting it wrong because most of the models, most of them, take this into La Nina territory and even into strong La Nina territory by the time we get into the peak part of the hurricane season. So, this here, I highly doubt. I honestly do highly doubt. This blue line here is the CFS, and I doubt it. I think by the time we get to here, we'll be all the way down at negative 1.0, if not higher. I mean lower, should I say? So yeah.
Yes, so yeah, I agree with you, Adam, absolutely.
Yeah. So with that being said, so what am I expecting out of this year? Well, I'll show you what I'm expecting out of this year. I'm expecting to look at storms in the Atlantic that look somewhat like that. Look somewhat like this, right? Maybe not so much in terms of Atlantic fish storms, should I say, right? But maybe in numbers, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a season which looks like this, but maybe then again, maybe not so much with storms out here,
Probably more like 2010.
but probably more like 2010. But yet again, with less of these happening. I would say, if anything, if I was to say the years which are closer, I would say the year of 2008, the year of the year of 2008, and the year of hold on, let me get that. Hold on, let me get that. Where am I? There we go. The year of 2007. Which I definitely think we'll be seeing storm tracks much like this. Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, East Coast of the United States. I see a big Atlantic high pressure developing out here. The Azores, Bermuda High developing out here, causing these storms to pick up and take off. And not only that, but if you look at the current charts now, if I could the current surface chart. By the way, this is the tropical Atlantic satellite as of right now. Nice little system off the east coast of the United States. But let's see if I could get the current surface chart up, or if anyone could get it up there quicker than I can. I know that my computer's running a little bit slow.
Adam, David's looking to share a couple of images on screen share as well. I've just noticed that today. So.
Is David in the background?
Yes, I'm here. Relates to
Alright.
sea surface temperature.
Yeah, David's wanting to screen share a couple of images.
Yeah, we'll go on to that in just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. If you could see here, on my chart here, the monsoon trough is already started to move up into place across Western Africa. Actually, the Intertropical Conversion Zone, or the ITCZ, has for the most part, on average, has been above the usual area, which it's usually at during the winter and during this time of year. You would usually see this intertropical conversion zone along here, and being mostly south of 0 degrees latitude, and you would see it go into Brazil, and I guess you could say help out with the South Atlantic hurricane season, which is, I guess you could say it's starting to be a thing now, South Atlantic hurricane seasons. But yeah, I mean, this year, this thing's been, for the most part, at about 10 degrees north. and looking at the extended forecast by GFS and a few others, I'm already seeing by the time we get into April, an Atlantic high already starting to come out around here, starting to head eastward, gain strength, and start to merge with another high developing out here. And there we go. We got that Atlantic high starting to pick up. Then with that being the case, you're going to end up starting to see tropical waves come off of Africa a lot stronger this year, a lot further north. And with that, having a better chance of hampering down on the Saharan dust layer, which is a dry, dusty air layer that gets shot off of Africa and gets into here and spreads dust and cause hamper to tropical development. I definitely think you're going to be seeing less of that, less of the wind shear due to the El Nino, higher heat content, higher temperatures, more tropical waves. It could only spell disaster for the Atlantic this year.
For someone. Let's hear what David's got to say. David.
Just wondering, Adam, about sea surface temperature for your area, and after you show that, I want to bring up what's developing over here. And as I posted in the chat, I'm very, very concerned when I look at what's happening here, and including sea surface temperature.
Yeah,
So,
I'm big to see this.
So, Adam, do you want to bring up sea surface temperature charts?
David, did you have something to screen share?
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I'll bring it up.
Start with yours first, and then.
Okay.
Well, you give Adam a minute to find it anyway.
All right.
All right.
Now I just got to find it this way too. Hang on, I've got to go out. Okay. I think I'll.
Right. Well, okay, let me start sharing
Whoever
that
gets there
again.
first.
Come on, quickly. Did I get it first?
Ah.
Yay!
You did
All right,
that, you won the race.
These are current temperatures in the Atlantic, and well, because it's evening now, it's likely cooled down a bit. But overall, we're seeing some higher sea surface temperatures in the area, 28s, 29s along the whole western Caribbean area. A little bit cooler in the Gulf of Mexico, obviously, with those storm systems passing by. It'll likely cool it down a little bit. Of course, should expect to see it return later on as the storms move out and so on. But overall, the key thing here is 26 degrees. 26 degrees is the temperature you need. 26 degrees and higher is what you need for any sort of tropical system to even get the chance to get going.
Yeah, unless you're
And-
Alex.
Unless you're
out.
some kind of baroclinic system, then they can form in much colder waters like Alex or Charlie of 92 or Tanya of 95. I mean, the list can go on and on.
Yeah. So if you look, the 26 degree line, which is actually unusually large for this time of year, extends south of the Cape Verdes and actually heads out further into the Atlantic, passing well north of the Caribbean into the central to South Bahamas, across Cuba, up into the Gulf of Mexico, and off into western Mexico. Now, the thing here that I find interesting is this little area right here, and what that is an eddy loop developing in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I'm quite sure some of you guys, especially my American brother here, which is which is sitting on the live stream this evening, can remember back in 2005 when we had Katrina and I think it was Rita heading into the Gulf of Mexico. It went over a similar loop eddy that was located here, and it really rapidly intensified those hurricanes as it made its approach to the Gulf Coast. So with that, if this continues, which I suspect it will, and get even stronger and get warmer, we could be seeing possibly storms get themselves into that and turn into monsters heading into the Gulf Coast. Yeah. So that's that with that bit. I know David wanted to share something. After David shows, I want Devin here to talk a little bit because I know he's been a little bit quiet. If he wouldn't mind, if there's anything he wants to add, like what he thinks about this hurricane season and so on. But first off, David, there was something that you wanted to share.
Now, we talk about sea surface temperature. Have a look at the Indian Ocean.
Oh, we just lost
where
it
we
there,
have-
David. You might want to try again.
Oh,
I think we kind of lost you a couple seconds.
I had to go back out and then come back in.
Oh, I see.
Or-
Oh. Well, that was David. Now,
this will be,
I was looking at those sea surface temperatures. I'm not completely familiar, but it must be a good month or two ahead of schedule, right?
I would definitely say that. Yeah, I mean, I've seen. During the daytime, I've seen temperatures in the Western Caribbean in our area that's blowing up 29, a good 29 degrees. Even in the Southwest Caribbean, 30 and 31, which is well ahead of what you'd normally see. In fact, you wouldn't even see that till about early
No,
June.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this David now, is it here?
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about sea surface temperature, and I just cited this information, and we're talking about this particular item, and look at the area above 31 Celsius for the Indian Ocean.
No, it doesn't surprise
And-
me because there's been no storms
Yes,
there.
I'm shocked.
Hardly.
I'm really shocked. And there is 99S, where I've got the
And that's-
Corsa.
And that's the big thing right there is the extreme lack of tropical cyclones. Since I think we can probably go all the way back to Super Typhoon Sodalor, all the way back in mid-September. There seems to be a rather disturbing lull in tropical cyclone activity.
Yeah, apart from Winston.
Then look at the.
Well, here's the thing. The amount of storms have been extremely low,
The number,
but
yeah.
obviously they've switched completely out for powerful systems like Joaquin, Patricia, Winston. What is its name?
Melor.
Uriah, Melor, Sherry, I think.
I don't remember that one.
Whichever one was in, not Sherry. Whatever the last storm in the East Pacific is.
It's Sandra, isn't it?
Yeah, Sandra, isn't it?
Sandra, there we go. Yeah. I would get to it eventually. You
Yeah,
see, there's Rick and Sandra in the East Pacific, and then there's Richard and Sherry in the Atlantic.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's coming up this year, isn't it? Those names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking a look at sea surface temperature anomaly right now, just the Reynolds analysis that's available on the National Hurricane Center. And the thing that's really surprising me, the fact that Adam here is saying that the sea surface temperatures are ahead of schedule, but mostly I see around in the Western Caribbean are temperatures actually right about average according to this graphic that was apparently updated on March 12th with temperatures about a half a degree above average, and in the central Atlantic, really ramping up in anomaly once you get off the coast of Nova Scotia, over 2 degrees warmer than normal. But the Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures are well below average, more than a half a degree. In fact, when you get next to the coastline, it's more than a full degree centigrade below what its mean is supposed to be at this time, which kind of surprises me. If I take a look at the other sea surface temperature anomaly for the East Pacific, you'd find that the El Nino has actually broken into 2 parts. You have one that's centered right around 110, 115, 120 west with 2 degrees Celsius anomalies, and then you have a 2.5 degrees Celsius anomaly right around 160 west on the equator. The anomaly stays above a half a degree Celsius for well above the equator, pretty much all the way up the west coast and getting up to 2 off the coast of Baja California. But very, very cold waters, anomalously cold waters in the subtropics in the West Pacific, at least 2 degrees Celsius below what it should be for this time of year.
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to what you guys have been saying with how high the sea surface temperatures are. I mean, we've had a lot of these small, very explosive systems ever since, I don't know, Pseudolore caused some kind of trigger to happen or whatever, but it seems like ever since then, it's like some kind of switch off was activated, and we just stopped having weak systems worldwide, and just everything, there was rare formation, but whatever formed became a Cat 3 or better.
And a Cat 1 in January in the Atlantic.
Yeah, which is extremely rare.
I just find it to be extremely concerning that there's been a lack of weak systems. We've had 11 systems this year. Only 2 of them have failed to become a hurricane. There was that one very weak cyclone in the southern Indian, I believe it was Daya, and we recently had Yalo, which was also nothing. But everything else has reached at least Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale, or Stage 4 on the Cyclone Destruction Potential Scale, either one. So we've had a lot of impressively strong systems thus far here.
What do you think is next, then?
There really isn't too much saying. You really can't go out and say with much confidence what is exactly going to be coming up next.
No.
Taking a look at past data, usually in seasons where we've had a lot of subtropical activity in the Atlantic, which we've had a lot of that in the recent years, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. 2015 not so much, but definitely 2012, 2013, 2014. We had a lot of subtropical activity in the Atlantic, and 2015 kind of seemed to stir away from that. And what that means is that maybe we can start getting some really vigorous tropical lows starting to come off of Africa here, and maybe we might see some first really good Cape Verde system since at least
it's
2010.
been a while.
Yeah,
We haven't had a really good Cape Verde hurricane in a long time.
Yeah. I just wanted to also say that with that, remember with the Atlantic season, early part of the year, we look closer to the United States and the Gulf of Mexico and the Western Caribbean. Tail end of cold fronts, sometimes split off a low. Sometimes you have a mixture of tropical waves plus the monsoon trough over the southwest Caribbean that tends to pick up these lows, and if the conditions are right, it really picks up. And in the middle of the season, you start looking at Africa for these systems. At the end of the season, we go back looking into the Western Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico for these late season storms. So we definitely gotta watch out this year.
Also, another place that you have to look out for is just off the coast of Florida and Bermuda during that time. Not Bermuda, the Bahamas, that time of year as well, because you can get some quickly spinning up storms in both July and October in that region.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to go back a little bit when we were discussing about the Indian Ocean and just off of Australia sea surface temperatures and the lack thereof tropical systems. Okay, we may have those high temperatures, but the question is how's the wind shear over the area? How moist is the atmosphere in the area?
I'm very, very sorry. My phone just kicked me right off the call.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't me.
It's not just my computer kicking me off the calls anymore.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't me.
This program hates me.
Well, Adam,
but anyways,
go ahead.
what I was going to hit on is that there were a lot of very rigorous and good-looking tropical waves that came off of Africa this year and just got completely destroyed by the subtropical jet stream that was extremely strong in the Caribbean and even extended out into the central Atlantic at some times. Like a storm like Tropical Storm Grace, if that wind shear wasn't there, that would have become probably a Category 3, Category 4 type Cape Verde storm.
More than a Danny, you would hope.
Hurricane Earl or Fred, you know.
Yeah. This year, that subtropical jet looks like it will be. It could very well be out of the way this year, and we could very well be seeing those Category 4, Category 5 systems this year. Well, at least that's what it appears to head towards. It looks like it's heading towards this year. What I was saying that you probably didn't catch, your phone probably kicked you out of, was I was saying that if we look back to what we were talking about earlier with the Indian Ocean and just off of Australia, high temperatures, and the lack of tropical cyclones in the area. How is the upper level winds in the area, and how is the moist conditions in the atmosphere over the area? Is it really moist? Is the shear low? Because we also need to remember that it's not just about the sea surface temperatures or temperature anomalies that trigger these storms. We need to look at the atmosphere as well, and that will also help determine if we will see these storms develop. So the question is there.
Well, I'm going to try to answer those questions very briefly and very quickly. As far as wind shear over the Gulf of Carpentaria, marginal at best and increasing. In the Indian Ocean, very low wind shear. Pretty much everywhere, low to marginal wind shear, basically from Africa to Indonesia, but that is actually north of the equator. To the south of the equator, it's a little bit more unfavorable. Once you get south of 15, you're just done. You're just done for. There's no hope. So upper level winds, I would consider that marginal. As far as total precipitable water, which is a graphic I always like to go to, shows you how much atmosphere how much moisture that the atmosphere is currently holding. If all the water in the atmosphere was to just rain out of it at this current moment, how much would it rain? That's what total precipitable water measures. And over the Gulf of Carpentaria, very, very moist, very, very moist. Well over 70 millimeters of TPW. And in the Indian Ocean, again, getting up 50, 60 millimeters of TPW. So, yeah, you've got the moisture there. The Central Indian Ocean, a little bit drier, but the Gulf of Carpentaria is very, very moist.
Yeah. David, do you have some breaking news?
Yes, I do. The Australian Weather Bureau has just put out a media release, and the Bureau is now closely monitoring the tropical low in the Gulf of Carpentaria and is forecasted to move slowly east today and intensify slowly. At this stage, the likelihood of a tropical cyclone developing is considered low, increasing moderate by Thursday. Intensification will hinge on how long the system remains over water before continuing east across Cape York Peninsula and out into the Coral Sea, and 31 degrees Celsius sea surface temperature.
Very interesting.
And there goes the Gulf of Carpentaria with the low shear, the moist atmosphere, and well, there goes the system kicking off. So yes, anyway, back to the Caribbean now. So yes. We've covered a good bit about the hurricane season and the El Nino and the impact of hurricane season, what it appears to be. Now, just quickly, one other thing before I think we go on to a question and answer and discussion, and then end of show. We're talking about the Caribbean and winter season. As I stated before, yes, the Caribbean does have a winter season. Yes, and I know that some of you are very, very surprised. But yes, the Caribbean can get cool, and yes, there have been times where it has indeed snowed in Cuba, Bahamas, Mexico. It almost did in the Cayman Islands at one point. Didn't get so lucky, but yeah, we almost did. Temperatures can get to pretty cold, even to freezing from time to time. It doesn't happen too often, but during cold winter seasons, like when we have El Ninos, they tend to get quite chilly. Or we could say anything about 60s, 50s, 40s, as much as 30s and 20s in some areas. Usually north wind, rain, or some occasions, especially when we get those severe storm systems at the end or beginning of winter season, where we end up getting hail. There has been frost on some of these winter storms. They have to be very strong winter storms, of course. I mean, a lot of times these are storms that literally freeze Florida over. Like what we've had in the 2010 winter season. So we do get them, and it does get relatively bad in quotation marks. So obviously not as bad as having blizzards or anything, but We do get the cold fronts that do come down here, and they do cause unfavorable sea conditions. And because the Caribbean is a nation, or you could call it a mini continent if you want, of islands that go out boating, go out fishing, doing all sorts of stuff like that. And getting stuck out on the open water in that kind of weather is not good at all. It also hampers with tourism, as the Caribbean is famously known for their tourism, especially in areas like the Cayman Islands where they don't have a proper port facility developed as of yet. Cruise ships tend to anchor off, and most times they don't get to come because tendering causes hazards, especially with the rough seas and so on. So it affects that. It affects agriculture, and it could get pretty bad at times. With this year, this winter season, we've had a couple of cold snaps, but it's been a relatively average winter season, I would have to say. It is definitely warming up to an unusually warm temperatures heading into spring now. So we're looking at that, and with this next winter, winter of 2016-2017. With the La Nina coming in, we could definitely see possibly a drier season and a slightly bit warmer season for the area. But we'd have to wait and see. I'd say before we could give any proper details on that, I would say I'll wait till about the peak of hurricane season, and then we'd start getting more into details about that. But
yes, I agree with you.
yeah. But so we have that. So that's how the El Niños and La Niñas affect the Caribbean during the year, and how with this La Nina, should I say, coming in this year, how I think it would affect the Caribbean. Also, just want to quickly just point out before we head to that question and answer phase, I did forget to mention the Caribbean, as well as parts of the U.S. and the rest of the world. We do get droughts as well, which the El Nino, La Nina does affect. Currently, some parts of the Caribbean are in severe drought. This El Nino caused very dry conditions. The good thing that comes out of hurricanes and so on is that it provides moisture for the region, and because we had very little last year, even though that Erica last year produced quite a bit of rainfall for quite a few of those Caribbean islands, it's still not enough to bring the area back to normal water conditions. So areas like Puerto Rico, the northeastern Caribbean, Jamaica, Hispaniola, the Cayman Islands are in a drought, strong to severe drought currently. I would say for us to get back into normal conditions, we would probably need about the rain equivalent of maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 Category 4 or Category 5 hurricanes worth of water to be able to return back to normal. And that goes for the same for the other Caribbean islands as well. So looking forward to this hurricane season, severe weather season, which is just about starting up now, and getting into May and into hurricane season will likely be a very wet one, and it will help with the drought situation. All right, so that's that for that. Now is the question and answer segment of the show. If anyone has any questions, whether you're on the Force 13 team, or whether you are watching on live stream or anything from Twitter or anything of the sort, Facebook, whatever. Send your questions and comments in. I would love to hear them, and I will be here to answer them.
You'll probably get loads of questions, but just after the show.
Yeah,
I bet
probably.
it does.
And
It does as well.
if I do get them after the show, I'd probably keep those questions on list and possibly answer them next show. But if there's any questions now, please question away.
I can't really think of any at the moment because I asked most of mine during the show as well as we were going along. But
I saw you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
But I think I'm not sure if David was finished talking about his area over there. I'm not sure if David wants to talk or if he's got any questions indeed.
Sea surface temperature. I haven't seen this for. Oh, this might be the first time that I've actually seen sea surface temperature 31 Celsius in the Gulf, and more so down to at least Townsville, which is about halfway down the tropical North Queensland coast towards my location. And for the team, the Weather Bureau has updated their flood information. There's a flood watch for the entire Gulf rivers, Georgina, Diamantina River catchments, which will make it up in the Gulf and the area to the southern region of the Gulf of Carpentaria. This is in addition to their media release, which was put out by the Northern Territory Office. So, and the rainfall could exceed 400 millimetres.
Well, that is something, David. That is extraordinary amount to
Yeah,
do.
something I did want to mention as well, the biggest, strongest storms aren't always the wettest ones either, Adam. Usually they can be weaker storms that can be extremely wet, and one would hope for one of those types to hit the Cayman Islands this year.
Yes, we've had storms like Erica and even Tropical Storm Faye, even Tropical Storm Arthur of 2008 were big rainfall makers.
And when does you have a wet season there?
Yep. We have a wet/storm season.
And when does that begin?
It usually starts about mid to late March and goes on till May, and then it transitions from storm season to hurricane season.
Ah, so it's
And
all
actually-
about to kick off very soon.
Yeah, and it's actually we actually have two sets of wet seasons during the year. We have the first set, which I just mentioned, and the second set, which is usually from late September until early November.
Mhm.
Yeah,
then-
including the hurricane season in the middle. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Very interesting indeed.
But your busiest
And-
month is September, isn't it, for the hurricanes?
Well, September, yes. Well, it's really September, October, really. Well, if you actually look back at it on history of all the storms that have
Yeah, I think we should take a break, Adam. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I don't know, guys, if there's anything much to discuss after the break. I don't know if you want to wrap up, actually. It's your
Yes, well,
choice.
How about we call it a 2 minute, then come back and we see where we go. I think there's one or two more little things, but other than that, yeah.
All right.
I think a break should happen just now.
In which case, Adam and the team will return in just a moment. Stay tuned. Force 13 Live with the Caribbean Weather Desk. With him over there. Adam. You're watching Force 13 Live.
Go.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the second part and near ending to Caribbean Weather Desk. I am your host, with somebody on the team who is sneezing, and the rest of the team. Yes, we have currently we have Nathan, we have David, we have Lee, and we have Devin, who's on the team. And yes, we were earlier discussing the Caribbean, the El Nino, La Nina, and as I'm thinking in my mind now, that sneeze will definitely have to be on the blooper reels, Nathan.
Oh boy. Got too many, I don't know what to do with them.
Geez, lost my train of thought there. Yeah, so we talked about how El Nino, La Ninas will affect the Caribbean and how this year looks like it will be affected. We also discussed a little bit about our severe storm season slash monsoon season slash fun time for me season, and winter season, and we discussed a little bit about sea surface temperatures and anomalies, and also a little bit about Indian Ocean and Gulf of Carpentaria, a little bit, just a little breaker from the Caribbean, a little, but yeah, so I guess right now just a little bit of a continuation of any answering questions and discussion before we head into two more little things and then a close up. So if there's anything anyone wants to question.
No viewer questions, but Martinez did post a slice of cake, I think it is. Is it cake?
Oh, lovely.
Can't quite
And my
remember.
birthday soon come up, so yay.
Oh, fantastic. When's that?
April 27th.
Ah.
It's not long at all.
The cake is a lie.
I do have to mention, for the last couple of years, it always seems that when my birthday comes around, the U.S. gets a severe tornado outbreak.
No way.
So, April 27th.
Good luck to the US.
Good luck, especially with this season coming in. Looks like this severe storm season is going to be quite something, and I'm betting my bets April 27th comes, there will be a tornado out.
Martinez says it was supposed to be a pie because it's Pie Day. It was. It isn't here anymore in the UK. We're in the 15th now, but yeah, it was on the 14th.
Yes, well, it's kind of late here now, and eating pies isn't really a good idea. Eating late.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had many pies.
Speaking of pie, I'm actually having a piece of pie right now. It's pretty good.
When I go to the football, I have a chicken curry pie.
I am craving a little bit of pie now too.
Has it gone to pie talk?
But yeah,
you can't find pie like this back around Maplewood, Pennsylvania. I'll tell you what. Two boys from Italy, they make a real good pie.
I'll remember that if I ever go and visit that area. Not likely.
Yeah. We'll see. Never know. I might just
You never know.
randomly
You never
up out of nowhere. Right. So a couple of things I want to mention. Right. So we have dealt with the meteorological and climatological standpoint with the Caribbean and its disasters and so on. Another one little quick thing that I want to touch on, which I will expand on it on another Caribbean weather desk, is the humanitarian aid assistance in the Caribbean and what we do have working for us. I will just touch here and there on it. Won't go into too much detail. That will be on another show. I have a personal interest in it as I am currently working on building an auxiliary team in the Cayman Islands as a how would you say a military defense force slash emergency response team who will be out there giving a hand with security and search and rescue operations and so on and so forth like that. So the Caribbean has a couple of regional agencies that work together in developing aid for Caribbean nations. All these nations work together whenever there's a disaster, whether hurricane, earthquake, volcano, or war breaks out or whatever. They will work together to help whatever Caribbean nation needs assistance. Being the Caribbean, there are overseas territories of the UK, of France, and of the Netherlands. The Cayman Islands being a British overseas territory, and I believe we lost Devin there for a minute.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yes. Oh well. So being the Cayman Islands being a British overseas territory, I'm very proud to be an overseas territory. We get aid from the British Royal Navy, and we do have military advisors around the area that work with them and help build up aid and security services for those areas. Same goes for the French and the Dutch, and they always come down to the Caribbean to due on to their service as requested, and they do help out. We also get aid and military help from the United States, Canada, even as far as Australia. We've received aid from, especially going back into 2004 when Hurricane Ivan completely wrecked the Cayman Islands. We have had aid and support from all over the world. We've even had aid and support from the African government, the South African government, and some other African countries. We've had Australia, Canada, even Russia, China, Japan, South America, United States, even other Caribbean nations. As a matter of fact, we even had aid coming from Haiti, one of the poorest countries in the Caribbean. We've gotten aid from them too. So very grateful for them. But yeah, so these territories do get aid from these organizations and people, but to be honest, they're helpful. But to be honest, on certain situations like Hurricane Ivan, the Haiti earthquake, the Surfers volcano, the Cuban crisis, all those stuff, more aid is needed, more help can be given, and we ask that whenever stuff like this do happen, we always ask for other people, please give us a hand, because despite these organizations being there, besides the military being there, a lot of times, they themselves, those organizations need a hand dealing with it, because a lot of stuff that does happen down here are quite devastating. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, despite a few Caribbean territories having strong building codes and so on, some of these places they don't have these well places, and trying to get through them is chaos. I mean, even for places that are well developed. As a matter of fact, the Cayman Islands during Hurricane Ivan, their building codes were well beyond anything the United States had to offer in terms of building codes. And actually, they were one of the strictest building codes on Earth. As a matter of fact, half of the buildings were built to military bunker specs, and they ended up getting totally wrecked. So, of course, building codes have changed even stronger than that. But to be honest, especially with people being careless and especially not having a storm impacting the area in recent times, decent storm to impact in recent times, people get complacent. People do stupid things. I've seen where people decided to ride out a storm on a small little aluminium boat out in the middle of the sea and said, "Oh, I'll ride out this hurricane in this," or decide to stand on the beaches while storm surge comes, decide to go inside of a building during an earthquake, people running towards volcanoes instead of running away. So there are some, all due respect, idiots running around the place. But especially when recent disasters haven't struck in recent times, people get complacent, and that's what worries me. But anyway, we'll discuss more on that on another show of Caribbean Weather Desk. And also, we'll have another show discussing about the earthquake and volcano activity that occurs in the Caribbean. Ooh. You could kind of call it a mini version of the Pacific Ring of Fire. We'll discuss with that. I will be on Lee's climate show, who would also be discussing about volcanic and earthquake activity around the world.
Discussing that my next show, yes.
I will be on there to help him with that, and Lee, I expect you to be there on that Caribbean Weather Desk show.
Oh, to talk yes, I'll be there.
That.
Yes.
So I think for now that would be it from me and from my team right here, sitting down, listening to me just shadow. So
that's a very convincing ending there, Adam. Nice.
So yes, guys. So I look forward to having more of you guys on, and for our Caribbean Weather Desk to continue. Caribbean Weather Desk, I believe, will be on at usual planned time for Thursday evening and Thursday evening EST and Saturday evening EST. I'm sure Nathan could give those times on UTC.
Moment, I've got it down for Thursday at 8 p.m. UTC, which is a bit earlier than usual. So what's that? 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, standard time, that is.
What time have you got for my next show? I forgot to ask you that.
The climate show coming up on Saturday night. That'll be at 10 p.m. UTC. That's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's not daylight time. The US is in daylight time now. Add 1 for daylight time, of course.
Mhm.
Adam, Lee, David and the team, we're saying goodnight here at Force 13, and we'll be back again tomorrow with a Cyclone History show at 8 PM UTC with Craig.
Excellent.
Have a great night, everyone
Right,
watching,
right, everyone.
and you guys here as well. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you and good
Bye.
night.